Thanks for joining Scene Squad. I'm your host and political and cultural critic Sharron, and I'm joined today with my co-host and historian and my TikTok sibling, Miss Rosalie, and you're listening to Seen and Heard podcast. Joining Seen and Heard podcast, where everyone should be seen and heard. Don't forget to thumbs up the video, share, and like. If you would like to support us, our links will be in the description box. And if you would like to share your voice, if you have a question or a comment, we also have a voicemail. Leave a comment, and we will greatly appreciate it. And we will actually share some of your voicemails and comments if you like on the future shows. So hashtag us Seen and Heard podcast so we can find you on all your socials. And let's get started with our weekend. It's the weekend, finally Friday. We made it. We made it.
Absolutely. We did. And they always try to drop the crazy news on a Friday. So that way, by the time we get to a Monday, it's already out of the news cycle and people have forgotten about it. So there's plenty of stuff to get into today.
I want to start with a look at how this fascist White House and the Trump regime consistently disrespects this country. Actually, no, we're not going to start with that. You're going to start. We were going to start on that, and then we were going to get to the disrespect from the White House against Hayao Miyazaki.
Yes. So we're going to start off by kind of talking about some news dropping within the last, it was yesterday, that there's a news article that I'll go ahead and pull up here that I think is really relevant. We're seeing some folks also on TikTok also discussing it a little bit, bringing it to people's attention. But we're seeing some news reports coming out of Yale that 3 of their prominent professors are leaving and heading up to Canada to do their work there. One of whom is the author of the book How Fascism Works, this man right here, Jason Stanley. And if you're not aware, his family actually fled Germany in the early 1930s, immediately prior to the regime taking over there and committing the Holocaust. And so when we start to see professors fleeing in the wake of all of these student abductions and deportations, it's bound to raise some flags among some folks. So that's kind of the story that we wanted to start off with. Would love to get some of your thoughts on when you saw this, because you found the Yale article. I found a different one.
It was actually before bed. I was just because I try to wind down, at unplug, and I cut off all my electronics around 10 o'clock and cut on a K-drama. But I that was like the last bit I saw. I saw a picture. Someone shared a picture of this professor from The Guardian. It was The Guardian's front page. Right. And I was like, I was, no, wait. So I found him and I Googled him, and then that's with the Yale article. But yeah, that's terrifying to me. I wanted to hear more from you about like the details, but my feeling, I got a cold chill because educators, and I see what he's doing like with the Columbia University. But I am actually just getting the tail end of that, because it's so much other that they're throwing at us. So it's kind of hard to keep up. So I want you to talk about it in more detail about like the Columbia and then this.
Yeah. I think that when you tie it all together, we're starting to see, the parallels playing out in this case. And of course, this provides some context for, okay, so when we start and then they came for is what kind of came to mind, that poem and those statements for, and then they came for, we're kind of having our own version of that moment right now. I won't say that it's entirely unlike some other things that we have seen in the United States previously. I think the main difference that we're seeing now is that now white people are also the target of what's happening. And in US history, usually in the past, that hasn't been the case. Now, the majority of the people that they're still going after at this point are not white. But there, when you're starting to see white flight taking place in a way, and you're seeing the brain drain starting to take place, and I know that those are, the white flight is more on the racist side of things, right? And
Explain the brain drain. I understand it,
brain
but
part
yeah.
is definitely where my main concern was, and it's part of the reasons why I've actually put in other videos. People have asked me, like, are you planning to leave? What do you want to do? And the biggest thing that people struggle with, especially during these times, is the people who have the education for the different types of skills and talents that are required to help a society lift itself up and maintain itself, like doctors, lawyers, just educators in general. When they leave, that automatically is to the detriment of everyone whose lives they could have touched or improved through whatever the, focus or area of study that they had. And so everybody is worse off. Doctors will leave. Doctors are going to be are always be essential. You're gonna see, if the rule of law is not going to be respected here, why would lawyers stay? And they may continue to fight, but you're going to start seeing those people leaving, and everyone suffers from a low level of education, which is why we keep having these arguments of whether our tax money should pay for us to educate people. And now we're having the conversation of, are educators even going to stay in the country? When in the reality, paying for everyone's education and having an educated population is a key for making sure we don't wind up in situations like this. Fascism thrives on folks who are angry, folks who have an economic hardship, and folks who are lacking knowledge, nuance, and education. And when you combine all those things together, that's when that kind of perfect storm emerges, and you start seeing things like this happening.
Now, speaking of law firm, what was the law firm that bowed down? Like, they basically kissed the ring of Trump to, what was that law firm? Because that was in the news yesterday as well. There's a law firm that is, let me see. Let me find Sharron Eiffel. Cheryl. And I apologize, I didn't have that pulled up, but I'll look it up and we'll talk about it
Okay.
on the next one. But you reminded me of that when you were talking about the brain drain. I was like, there's another law firm that people are alarmed about, and I want to get specific, so we'll talk about it in the next podcast. But let me play this clip real quick, and then this is actually a response to how the GOP and the Republicans want everybody to fall under their rules, but they do not want anybody else to have, their freedoms. If that makes any sense. We'll watch this, and then we'll talk on the other side.
BTQ flag or Black Lives Matter flag, you think these are political viewpoints? You follow the same sentiments?
Yes.
Can you please expound on that if possible?
Well, they're political because they exclude members that are not part of those organizations. For example, I mean, you mentioned Black Lives Matter. They actually have on, their viewpoints include the idea that they want to destroy the nuclear family. That's on their website. So the LGBT flag promotes a specific viewpoint that there should be special rights for LGBT people, which is a political viewpoint.
Special rights or equal rights?
No, special rights.
Special rights.
Correct.
So no equal rights?
No, we believe in equal rights. We don't believe in special rights.
You don't believe in special rights?
Correct.
Okay, and your organization is?
The Christian Family Coalition.
All right, so with the Christian Family Coalition, as it pertains to the political viewpoint, if someone was to put up a flag, I remember when I was in school, there was a flag with the cross at the top of it. It used to be right under the American flag. You wouldn't approve of that, would you?
Well, I mean, like the current there's a Supreme Court case right now that
No, I want to know. When I was in school, there was the American flag, and there was the Christian flag right under it. You wouldn't agree with that, would you? You would want that flag down.
The Christian flag is not a political flag; it is a religious flag. So that
for a group of people, right?
It basically it honors God. So we would not oppose a Christian flag. The same thing as basically anything the Ten Commandments, anything to do with religion would be fine.
Would be fine, but not any other flag. So the Ten Commandments and everything else is cool, but everything else is a no-go. Yes.
I believe the way that the bill is written is appropriate, and it excludes political flags.
So excuse me, Mr. Chair, as I do this. So you are okay with a child who, let's say he or she is Jewish or Muslim, and they have the Ten Commandments up, the Christian flag are up, and the Christian flag is directed at a group of children that excludes the Jewish child and the Muslim child. You're okay with that, right?
I don't believe that would be. It wouldn't exclude. So
it doesn't exclude.
No, I don't believe it excludes it because I mean, if you're talking about religion and the religious message is all inclusive.
Okay.
Thank you.
No self-reflection whatsoever. What are your thoughts? When I saw that, I was just like,
when they start stuttering, when they start gulping real hard because their mouth's still dry, get that man a leotard for all the
in a tutu.
We had to do in that. Goodness gracious, he should have a gold medal in mental gymnastics.
Exactly.
It's very much apparent who's being centered and who is considered it, and it goes back to fascist elements. And one of the biggest elements of fascism is that there's an in crowd and there's everyone else. And so the projection will always happen. They don't allow other crowds to exist so that there can be an in crowd and everyone else. Because if you start creating inclusivity, then it breaks down this idea that you have to be worthy of this ideal. And that's where like the religious spin comes into it, and the you're not worthy because you simply exist element of things. And you see it playing out where it's what's good for me is not good for thee. And while people talk about how there's all these kinds of contradictions and how could you believe in something that's so contradictory? Well, in reality, and growing up somebody who was in the Christian church myself, and I know that you have some experience with that as well.
Yeah.
The Bible itself, because it's written by so many different individuals over a long period of time, different books were added, subtracted, moved around, translated, that the Bible itself is full of a lot of contradicting belief systems, but a lot of folks within certain sects are taught that it is all the cohesive word of God, rather than it being a collection of stories around people and their experience with God and spirit, whatever you want to call that. And so when you're taught and when your foundational beliefs are able to be contradictory and you can explain those away, it becomes a lot easier to explain away the contradictions in other beliefs, kind of like we're talking about with the LGBT flag versus the Christian flag here.
They are working overtime. I'll tell you what, and I'm looking for this, which ties into this video. Like they were trying to impose their beliefs on everybody else. When I read up on the 7 Mountains Mandate, those people, these people are like, I'm just thinking to myself, how are they going to force all of us to do this? Like I'm not bowing down to them, and I can be very peaceful. I try to be very peaceful. I'm not a violent person, but for them to try to force, that's why I'm not understanding, like when Joe and Mika and all of them and all of these billionaires and all of these law firms are bowing down to this lunacy. I don't understand that.
I mean, At the end of the day, I think that there's an element of people not being willing to acknowledge the reality of where we are and thinking that there might be some way to work within this system while it's currently crumbling. And I know we talked about that actually when we were discussing stuff with Rachel Maddow and some of the independent journalism and how she's sort of been critiqued also for sort of trying to continue towing a line. And I think that you're going to see that reflected in virtually every industry. And until we acknowledge that trying to find reason or ration or logic in a situation where it's clear that the foundations are actually not in reality, you're never going to be able to reconcile it. It's trying to apply logic to a situation that is illogical.
I found it. I'm gonna play this too because this ties into what we're talking about. They're moving at breakneck speed to try to force people into conformity and stuff, and I just really don't see it working out well for them. But here's the video.
And we're pretty sure that they've got some recession predictors out here. So I'm going to show you what we're talking about.
I had to refresh it, so let's see. So you can hear it from the beginning.
Okay.
There we go.
We're in Old Navy, and we're pretty sure that they've got some recession predictors out here. We're in Old Navy, and we're pretty sure that they've got some recession predictors out here. So I'm going to show you what we're talking about. We're starting fresh with our District 12 frock. It's made out of a nice rough material. That's what you want. It's a nice oatmeal color, just like you want it. You know, fancy. Spring is coming. Spring is coming. Okay. Okay. It doesn't need washing that often. That is recession core. Let's go somewhere else. Now, next up, I know what you're thinking. Those little pants aren't really that bad. And they're not. I actually think they're kind of cute. But what do they make you think of, right? A sailor or perhaps Rosie the Riveter. Rosie the Riveter, right? Right? They're trying to get us prepared to get back out to work. And then if you aren't convinced, look what they're selling in tandem. We just walked a little deeper into the store and we found the matching oatmeal District 12 shirt for any of our meal presenting friends who want to make sure that they are representing the recession appropriately. Maybe it's the gift that keeps on giving, because look what we found. Nothing other than the formal version of the potato sack dress that you would be wearing to the reaping in District 12. Right there. I don't know. We don't need any. We're in Old Navy.
Recession core?
And the thing about though is the last recession we went through as a millennial, there were more colors, I fear. I feel like there were more colors in everything. In fact, we were wearing too much color, frankly.
And the rise of that tramp life stuff?
Yeah,
there's an agenda.
You're seeing a resurgence in all those things. And in fact, you're going to see on your social media timelines a lot of more folks trying to kind of normalize the traditional, whatever traditional at this point we know is just a dog whistle for whiteness, not you know what I mean? And that's it. Everybody needs to be in a uniform, that everybody needs to be looking very similar. We see things happening like that in other countries around the world that our government loves to point the finger at and be like, see, we could be like that. We're not like those countries. But I think at this point, again, it's a mask off situation. And so I agree with you. I have been saying for a long time that we have far too many people in far too many different states over far too much land with far too many cultural influences and just cultures in general for this to be sustainable. And people talk to me about oh, well, you see what's happening. They've been able to hold North Korea for as long as they have. I was like, it's a much smaller country with a lot less people. And you also have to remember that the United States has had their hand in the tensions that are going on in that area for so long that they're only acting to make it worse, frankly, at this point. And so when people want to kind of doomsday about that scenario, that's one of the things that actually gives me hope. Like, logistically, this is a nightmare for the people trying to pull it off, and we have to be prepared to endure it. Yes, we have to resist it as well, but we cannot think all we must do right now is sprint, because we have to prepare for the endurance, because they will actually they will wear out. I agree with you. I don't.
I have to remind people that the reason their favorite K-pop idol has to do mandatory military service is courtesy of the United States over there butting their nose in North and South Korea's business. That's why they have to do mandatory military service.
Right. North and South Korea didn't actually exist until the United States decided to butt in and have their part. And now I'm not going to sit here and pretend that what's going on in North Korea is hunky dory and it's all United States influence that made that happen entirely. There, of course, is a deep level of trauma that people have endured and that needs to be unpacked. But
because we're not Korean, but yeah.
Also, what we're not going to do is throw stones in glass.
Right.
I'm not going to do that, because again, that's where I approach everything from a radical empathy. In the right circumstances, under the right pressure, it could be any of us, as we're seeing that play out at this point. So, yeah.
Well, let's go into the contempt that the White House has shown towards one of my favorite legendary artists, writers, directors, the legendary Hayao Miyazaki. Yes, I feel some kind of way about the art that the White House put out. The White House, of all places. They put out some anti-immigrant art trying to meme it in the style of Studio Ghibli. And I know there are a lot of Studio Ghibli fans out there. And Rosalie, we're going to start. I'm good. She's new. We're gonna get her into the Studio Ghibli, but I'm going to play this clip and talk on the other side. So I'm giving context so y'all know what I'm talking about.
So OpenAI stole the work of Studio Ghibli's animation style, Hayao Miyazaki's artwork style, and essentially now the White House is weaponizing that artwork, that generative AI, to dehumanize brown people. If this is not a big indicator of who gets to benefit from generative AI, because if it wasn't for this stolen work, these fascists would not be able to make this type of style on their own. They need generative AI to inspire this type of anti-art artwork. If you know anything about Hayao Miyazaki's politics, you know he's very anti-fascist, anti-war, and to have his style weaponized in this way that the White House official pages are now using it. All these meme accounts are now using it to create their own type of version of it. Hayao Miyazaki has been very clear about how much he hates generative AI. He thinks it's utterly disgusting. The same fascist government that is kidnapping people who are not pro-fascist, who are protesting against genocide, who are protesting against bombings, facilitated by another fascist government that is backed by this fascist government. But again, my point that I want to make is you get to see who truly benefits from generative AI. I remember my first Hayao Miyazaki film. It was Kiki's Delivery Service. That film means the world to me. It was the first film that I just made me feel so much. I remember I recorded it on a VHS tape. It came on TV. I don't even think I had cable. I think it came on regular local channel. So please stop with this generative AI stuff and go experience these types of art style and these types of films and what they mean through the films that were already made. So go check out Studio Ghibli films, go check out Hayao Miyazaki's films. Hope to God Mr. Miyazaki is on some mountain and he does not have any self-service and he does not have any internet right now and does not know what the fuck is going on.
What he said, and I would also like to add that I will be sharing his, if you weren't able to see his screen name, I will have it in the description, but yes, I hope that Hayao Miyazaki is somewhere. He's also, a lot of his films explore themes of anti-fascism, anti-capitalism, Spirited Away in particular, Porco Rosso. One of my favorites is My Neighbor Totoro. I love that, and that's on another subject. But I mean, he's got hundreds of them. So we'll be here all night. We're not here to talk about all of the films, but just the idea that the White House would show such insolence, which at this point, they're getting away with everything. They're
remember
not going to
that-
be held accountable.
Right. And during World War II, right after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, we know what the United States, started doing to the Japanese individuals here, and enacted their own version of fascism on the Japanese population of Japanese Americans in the United States. And so while it's heartbreaking that it's happening, I can't honestly say that I'm shocked given the scheme that the United States seems to, the rotation and the loop it seems to want to stay on, frankly. And I think if you want to, we can kind of get into the article that I had found that we were discussing.
Yes.
Roll into, but I think the rewriting of the narrative this is another piece of that. It's appropriating other pieces of art, and if we talk about the symbols that were used in Nazi Germany and things like that were essentially co-opted from other symbols, and this is another example of that. And whiteness, white supremacy culture is the erasure of other identities, it must fall in with the in crowd or it's not, and I think it goes back into that. And so there's news that's been coming out along those lines, discussing the executive order that has recently come out of the White House, specifically around museums, Smithsonian's. It's called Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History, which is basically them stating that they are going to be basically revamping all of the messaging that's coming out of Smithsonian's museums, essentially stating that any discussions of anything that doesn't paint the United States in a positive light, and only, if it makes the white people uncomfy, essentially, then we're not going to be able to include it in any of the Smithsonian's museums, anything else that's going to be publicly funded by at the national level. And one of the things that they said, under this historical revision, our nation's unparalleled legacy of advancing liberty, individual rights, and human happiness is reconstructed as inherently racist, sexist, oppressive, or otherwise irredeemably flawed. And the reality actually is that the United States, as it was founded, when they talk about the legacy of advancing liberty and individual rights, the only people who actually were written into having rights during the founding of this country were white, Christian, rich men. Rich being an important delineation, because in many regards, you had a lot of whiteness has been redefined. Who fits into that category has been redefined. What Irish and Italians at one point didn't exist in that sphere, but when it was convenient for getting the numbers and the polls up and converting, souls to the cause, all of a sudden they're white and they have privileges now. And so they have continually moved the goalpost. No one else has continually moved the goalpost. And this is an attempt at projection. Well, it's not an attempt at projection, just is projection. They're just, every accusation is a confession. And what they're basically stating is that we're gonna, we go back to the conversation we were having about things that were taking place in Nazi Germany, North Korea, these countries that they keep trying to point the finger and telling us, we could be like that. It's not could be. It's, in fact, in many ways, we've been the inspiration for that.
Right. Because Jim Crow was an inspiration to Hitler for the final solution. In
fact, he thought we were going too far in some regards when it came to like one drop rule. When it came to certain, he was like, "That's great that y'all would go even that." So to get to the root of how we keep winding up here, we have got to recognize that we are not repeating what somebody else inspired us to do. We're repeating what we inspired someone else to do all over again.
And like Seeley said in The Color Purple, till you do right by me, everything you touch is going to fail.
Exactly.
And so on that, we will close out on some funny news here. Miss Jasmine Crockett, which her birthday's coming up. I think her birthday's today, the 28th. If I'm wrong, someone correct me. But I'm gonna play these two clips. The first, well, let me see, it's three clips. So the first one is to add context, so you'll know what we're talking about. And this is like an end of the week type thing, because this has been going on all week too. And I actually caught it like maybe a day or so after it happened, because I didn't know what people were talking about. But it's actually kind of comical, because people on TikTok have made it a meme, have turned it into a meme. I can't play a lot of the memes because they have copyrighted music, but you'll get context after I play these clips. So then
And
we'll talk.
Her birthday's the 29th. I just looked it up.
So, okay, so it's tomorrow. Happy
about it.
yes. So happy early birthday, Jasmine Crockett. But I'm going to play this first clip to give context.
Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now. And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot ass mess.
So after that, she made a statement, and then that she posted a link after her statement, which this is, let me see, I'm going to go ahead and just loop it. But she posted that link. So she made her statement here. Let me stop that. And if you can see here, you can pause to read here. So this is her statement. And that's pretty professional there. And then she posted a link up under her statement stating why, she kind of made the statement that she made. So this next clip was actually kind of triggering to me. And it has to do with a Fox News reporter basically attacking her, but she handled herself. I mean, but me, I was having a panic attack watching it, but we'll watch this and then talk on the other side.
I put out a statement regarding that.
You didn't apologize.
I put out a statement.
Why would I apologize?
When I put out a statement, my statement was clear.
But you didn't
My
apologize
statement was
for calling him Governor
My
Hot Wheels when
statement
he
was
gets
clear.
around in a wheelchair.
I don't know how many
that's
times
offensive to
I don't
people?
understand
Who
how
have a
many times
disability?
you need me to repeat this to you.
Right, but why won't you apologize?
I put out a statement.
They didn't have an apology.
So read my statement.
I did read it. It didn't have an
Okay.
apology.
Okay, well, I'm done with
You
this.
don't feel bad
I'm done.
about making fun of someone
I'm done
who
with this.
is in a wheelchair, calling him Governor Hot Wheels?
I put out a statement regarding that.
You didn't apologize.
And the hop there, I mean, it goes goes without saying that they're going to continue to have hypocrisy. So, because they always try to scream to distract. So, what are your thoughts on that when I pull this up?
I think it's interesting that intersectionality only really gets brought or discussed as something that is important to the camp defending the governor of Texas when it's convenient for them, but when millions of people are trying to get extra social security disability coverage, when they're trying to get health insurance that will help take care of disabled children, when they're trying to get access to Medicaid, when they're trying to get access to all of these types of things, all of a sudden it's crickets when it comes to caring about the disabled community. And so I'm not somebody who has that intersection the same way that he does, and I'll never pretend that I understand what it's like to live that life. What I can say is, with the things that I do have an intersectionality about, I make it a very big point not to weaponize those intersections when it only stands to benefit me. And that's how this feels, frankly. If there were respect for the disabled community coming out of the Republican Party as a whole, especially Greg Abbott, then we might have a different story to tell here. But walking around and supporting a party that's basically telling you that empathy is a weakness, and then demanding it the minute that there's an opportunity to get a juicy story on Jasmine Crockett, it just feels disingenuous to me. We could be having a different conversation if it wasn't specifically only a problem when we're talking about Jasmine Crockett, who has been obviously one of the most outspoken voices for the people, an actual representative amongst a sea of what I could argue are just bought and paid actors at this point on both sides, frankly.
And considering like this post here, I mean, they have a habit, like you said, it's no self-reflection, and they are just, you know, how dare you when you respond back to us.
Right.
And,
You want empathy to be involved in the conversation, then let's talk about it.
Mhm,
But what we're
mhm.
not going to do is weaponize empathy.
Right.
After you guys said that it was basically a cardinal sin to have empathy. Like, you have to pick a struggle. You have to pick a struggle.
Right, that part. Pick a struggle. And so on that, our last, we have a comment on one of our videos. Well, it's a video I did about Elon. It says Elon Musk destroyed. Has Elon Musk destroyed the Tesla brand? So I got a commenter here. I'm going to pull this up on the screen, and I, like I said in another clip, thank you for your comments. You know, I don't, you know, I'm not all sensitive and everything like that. You know, I'm Gen X. Hey, so the comment was, I will be buying more stock at this great price. So what I would like to say to you is I know people that have bought stock in Rivian, which is the EV company that is Elon Musk's competitor. And their stock looks to be doing pretty well.
Right?
Their stock looks pretty good. So more power to you. If you want to let me give you applause there. More power to you if you want to get some Tesla stocks.
And at the end of the day, bless you, that's my little one in the background. At the end of the day, Elon hasn't destroyed the Tesla brand necessarily, because he bought it, and he will likely at some point just be forced to back away from it, so that they can focus in on doing other things. What I think that could potentially be terrible for the Tesla company in general is that he tried to put his hand in helping with the creativity side of things, and then we got a Cybertruck out of it.
I won't ever get it, but we love our haters too. So go ahead and leave those comments, because that drives the traffic to our videos. And
it's a lot of people who are still just stuck in this idea that the American exceptionalism myth, that, like, you know, oh great, I'll just wait until the prices drop and then I'll buy them up. I don't necessarily see a recovery in Tesla in the same way, because of what you were talking about. The competition coming out of other countries, especially China at this point, when it comes to this type of technology,
oh my god,
it's going to dwarf the United States very quickly.
It already is.
The United States very quickly. And so with what Elon did combined with that piece of the puzzle, I think it's going to be the perfect storm for making it very difficult for Tesla to ever trade at the level it was before, if it doesn't go down outright. And I think at some point soon, he's going to be forced to sell X or Twitter.
Now, Rivian is a company here, because like you were saying about the cars in China, like there's like no competition. And that's why, you know, there's the Tesla, I mean the tariff fight and all that stuff. But Rivian is here, and I want to show y'all this picture here. So this starts at, was this I can't, it won't let me it won't let me pop it up because of it says subject to copyright. Well, I guess I could flip this around so you can kind of see. Now, I went to the site, the Rivian site. I can't afford to pay attention, so if I win the lottery, I'll get one. But I specifically, I like this little car here. It's this is made by Rivian, and it's a truck. I love that. It's a Rivian R1T right here. That's the truck. And I went to their site and they have like a virtual option where you could click on it and you could do, look on the inside and everything like that. But I like the lights and everything, and the fact that it's not associated with Tesla. I love it even more. So
Like a truck. Look at that.
it's a truck. It's awesome. It's like a real truck. Like you could drive it off road in the mud, and because I like trucks. My last truck that I had was 10 years ago. It was a Z71 Chevy. It was pretty old, but I mean, I used to ride it in the mud, get it all muddy. And see, I would do that with this. That's the whole point of a truck, hauling stuff, you know. But yeah. So haters, get your stocks in Tesla. I'm happy for you again. And Rivian, when I win the lottery, I'm headed your way for that check.
Right. If you wanna remain stuck in this belief system that everything's just gonna be peachy keen and Elon's just a genius who's gonna make everything better for everybody all over the world. If you want to continue to live in that place, it's not going to change the actual facts as they are. You're welcome to believe what you want to believe. Just, I don't treat my opinions like facts. I let facts inform my opinions. And when the facts are literally all pointing at a completely different place, I make a different judgment call. That's what I talk about. I'm going to do a little bit of a personal rant here about people who talk about science. That's science. That's what science is. It's taking the information that's provided to you and comparing it to your hypothesis, which are your beliefs. And so science is not a belief system. It's a system for testing your beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a scientist, when I look at all the data and it's telling me, cat sneezing, when I'm looking at all the data and it's telling me one thing, it doesn't matter what my beliefs are. And I must be willing to revamp my opinions when new information comes out. That's called critical thinking. And a lot of folks don't want to do the critical thinking. They don't want to change their opinions. They want to stay stuck in the mud. And on a financial level, as somebody who's a finance professional, the worst place you could be is stuck in the mud when it comes to finance.
And on that, our call to action this weekend, go to Jasmine Crockett's socials and just wish her a happy birthday. I mean, that doesn't cost anybody anything. And that'll be our official act of kindness. So we need more of that. So
Absolutely.
go wish Jasmine Crockett a happy birthday. And we will see you guys on the next one. We're going to work on our weekend Express Yourself episode. And we will see you guys on the next one. Thank you.